Good to do that. Everything's good.
Okay, by my watch, it's 4:30, so I'll call the meeting of the Board of Zoning Adjustments for March 11th to order. Would you call the roll, please?
Ellis, Barner,
Here.
Wesson. Here. Sudbury,
Here.
Portillo,
Here.
Duel. Here. Lloyd.
Here.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes of the last meeting.
I make a motion to approve minutes of the last meeting.
Second.
Motion from Clayson and a second by Sedberry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business, and there isn't any. So the next item would be new business, and we have a request for a zoning variance number 2024-53097. The staff, Mr. I.
All right, thank you. This property is located on Wickham Lane, as the adjacent lot to 5 Wickham Lane. The applicant is requesting to build a detached shop on the adjacent lot of 5 Wickham Lane in the front plane of the primary house, as well as within the front property line setback of parcel 16-16144 due to topographic restraints. The applicant is requesting a variance on the accessory structure setback within the R1 district, section 109-166C4B2 at the property to accommodate this proposed detached 400 square foot shop building. Code allows shops in the R1 zone to achieve a maximum GFA of 1,200 square feet on adjacent lots so long as they are behind the primary's front plane. Wickham Lane is a dead-end cul-de-sac labeled as a residential street and is within a low-density residential area. Staff can confirm the topography begins to fall off sharply toward the ravine on the east side of the lot. No public comments been received at this time. Staff did publish a legal ad notifying the public of this hearing in the weekly Vista on February 25th, and a public hearing sign was posted on the property. Due to the analysis above, staff is recommending approval so long as the eaves of the subject shop remain outside of the 7.5-foot drainage and utility easement along the front property line, and that the existing drive that is currently on lot 28 be paved and utilized as the sole access point on lot 28. And it's also to be noted that additional approvals may be required from private entities if approved by us, and the eaves will need to be shown when they apply for their building permit.
Okay. Do commissioners have any questions for staff? Is the applicant here, would like to come up and state your name and address and tell us if you have anything to add to their comments?
Yeah, I have a bit to add. My name is Michael Pennington. I live at 5 Wickham Lane in Bella Vista, and I do have a little bit to add to that. This has been a long time coming. I had a fire and I lost everything, and I've been trying to get this built since last year. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak today and try to get this moving forward. If you go to your, I gave you some handouts. Handout number 1. It's a picture. It shows the red line. Shows a proposal of the shop, which is going to be a wood shop. It's 29 feet from the road's edge. I took a measurement of that. Like it was mentioned by Chris, the cul-de-sac, I'm on a cul-de-sac. There's no other utilities as far as I know going beyond my home. Picture 2, if you can look at picture 2 there, the proposed building is behind the utility easement already. You can see the yellow highlighted line there. And then picture 3, an aerial view given to me by Chris. My house sits 29 feet from the road's edge right now, as does my neighbor's house. Please look more carefully now, as my house and my neighbor's house is approximately only 12 feet from the property line, as is my proposal. The roads are all narrow, much more narrow than originally designed, as you probably know. I've found 12 properties that are less than 29 feet from road's edge in my area, my neighborhood, and I can provide these addresses if you want me to. There's many more in Bella Vista that I've seen, even less than that. Bella Vista requirements state that the shop must sit behind the front of the home. This is simply impossible due to the hauler. Please see survey number 2 for further reference on that, or handout number 2. The garage can only go back another 5 to 7 feet, but at a great cost according to 2 different builders. Please allow this to be built where the red lines are marked currently on all 3 handouts. If this is unacceptable, then please allow it to at least for it to be pushed back an additional 5 to 7.5 feet. And finally, please see the existing road on page 2. It's in the green, and the proposed driveway. The existing road will not work for use with the shop as is going in the wrong direction and is used to access 5 Wickham Lane, the adjacent home there, my home, for the septic system. Thank you so much.
Do any of the commissioners have questions of the applicant? Yes.
The staff made some, sorry. The staff made some comments related to compliance with the 7.5-foot drainage and utility easement, and then the paved driveway. Are you familiar with those comments?
I just know that I had locates come out, and they've sprayed them all. They're only like 3 to 5 feet from the road's edge. So right now, all the utilities would not interfere with the shop whatsoever. All the utilities could be accessible. Is that what you're referring to?
So, well, I just want to make sure that they recommend approval with those stipulations. I just want to make sure you're aware of those stipulations.
Yeah, and
You
I'm
think you
asking
can meet
for,
those.
I'm asking if you, I mean, if that's the only way it's going to be approved, then I accept it, humbly. But what I'm asking for is something totally different. I'm asking for the proposed driveway that I have here, the green,
Yeah.
to be allowed because that drive doesn't help me at all with this shop. It doesn't, it's going in the wrong direction. But like you said, if that's the only way you're going to approve it, I'll take it. It's better than nothing.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
The staff has mentioned paving that driveway that's existing there now.
Yeah, that's what we were just referring to, but again, that driveway doesn't do any good for the shop.
Well, are
Yeah.
you going to continue using that driveway?
Well, I don't really use it for anything. The only thing it was built for was to access the septic. I mean, they can walk by foot. I mean, half the homes in Bella Vista don't have access to the septic. So I don't really care about that drive. It doesn't really serve any purpose for me.
So if the commission agrees to the variance without that second driveway being there, are you all right with that?
Well, I gotta have access to the shop, so I mean, if
Well, you come off of the road for that, don't you?
Right, that's what I was planning to do with that green highlighted area. I was hoping just to come right in there would be the easiest and the least expensive, way.
Okay, thank you. Let's,
Turning on. But a secondary driveway would require a whole nother request to the planning commission via a waiver. So a secondary driveway cannot be considered tonight. This is only on the setbacks. Really, the requirement that we restipulated is already a requirement of our code. We're just making sure that it is noted on the record that this lot 28 can only have one access. So if he is adding something to access on this lot, then only one access can be used to access that property. We can't approve a secondary driveway, which I'm not sure. I don't think staff has the plot plan that you guys have. This is the only one that we have currently. And there is no access drive shown on the one that was turned in for the zoning variance, but if there is a secondary driveway shown, that could not be heard or be possible with this project as of right now.
okay.
Yeah, the paperwork I handed, let me give you one too, sorry. You can have that one. Yeah, in the green there is what I'm asking, but if I needed to do another, request, I can.
Okay.
So tonight, your request is for a driveway.
Well,
No.
apparently,
No.
I mean, in my
Building
opinion
setback.
is, I'm asking to build this shop, and I'm asking for the driveway too, but if I have to do the driveway separate, then I get it, I'll do that, I'll go
Because
through Chris
this
and
is-
we'll try to figure out.
This is getting confusing.
Yeah, it's getting a little confusing.
Well, to me too, trust
All
me.
right, staff, as I understand, the variance he's requesting is to be able to put that shop in with the one driveway and it would be the appropriate setback from the road as the house is. And it wouldn't mess with the easements, but that there would not be that second driveway that goes in behind his current house. Is that right?
Well, I'm asking for the green highlighted driveway to be the drive going into the
That
shop.
comes from the street into.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking for.
Yeah,
So,
but you're not asking for a driveway to go over behind your existing house?
No, it's already there, but I'm not asking for anything to, it was there when I bought the house, so I mean, it's there, but I'm not asking to do anything with it.
Okay,
so for this request, it's strictly the placement of the building.
yes,
So-
placement of the building.
Yes.
We don't
Yes.
consider the driveway at all, the green shaded
We,
area on
yeah,
the plan.
the condition of approval
That's something
was
totally different.
that there was that access there. We wanted to ensure that there wasn't an additional added. We wanted to utilize that because it was there. We did confirm it has been there since before we were a city, but
Okay.
that's where that stipulation came from.
And you're wanting to move the house further up than 29 feet, which is what your house is.
Well, right now, the houses and my proposal, they're all 29 feet. So where I have it marked on your plan right there is where it sits right now, and I'm asking just to maintain that spot.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
okay. Any other, Linda?
Yeah, I have a question for staff. Is it possible for us to approve this as long as the 12-foot gravel drive is abandoned?
I guess, yeah.
Stipulations on zone variance you'd like. Staff just wants to make sure the applicant knows that only one access can be used for lot.
Right, I'm just trying to simplify things. If we were to approve this, we could add on that the existing 12-foot gravel drive must be abandoned.
And how do you abandon a driveway that's already there?
Stop using it?
Take
Don't
out
use
the
it.
gravel.
Take out the gravel.
Okay,
So when somebody
Not just
pulls up
gravel,
there, it's not obviously a drive.
okay.
That's what I would
I
think.
can scrape out the gravel, yeah, if you want.
That just might make it a one-shot thing instead of him having to come back again about a driveway.
I don't know whether I can answer that.
Well, that's what they said, okay.
All right, I'm sorry. Say that again.
My suggestion was if we were to make a positive motion on this request, we could include what's listed as the green driveway, which must be paved as long as the existing 12-foot gravel driveway is abandoned.
Okay.
Could we perhaps, could be approved, or staff recommend amending that to be, approving the variance, if that's what you guys are gonna do tonight, or if you're gonna propose it in the positive, so long as the access management complies with code.
That works too.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't think we do. Since they didn't ask for a second driveway in the variance request,
so-
we're only granting a variance for the setback.
Well, Clayton, here's the thing though, is that I didn't bring up the whole driveway thing.
I know you didn't, I know you didn't.
They did,
There,
yeah.
there's here's what I think we're trying to say. I don't know that we're getting around to saying it. Today is a variance on the accessory structure setback alone. And on that's what we're talking about, a variance. So if he needs to get some other sort of waiver from the planning commission so that he can do something with driveways, that's a separate issue.
Yes.
And we're conflating these, but would not suggest that you do that.
Okay.
And so, you know, the ordinance requires what it requires right now in terms of access management. If he can do that within the terms of that, that's fine. If he still needs to do something else, then he can come back and address that in the appropriate form to do that.
So it's mentioned in the staff recommendations, though, and that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, well.
So if we should kind of not consider that as part of the recommendations, if it's approved, then we can
Yeah,
do
I'd rather
that.
not wait another 3 months to do this again. I mean, it took me 3 months to get here, guys.
Yeah, we're trying to help you.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you.
I think.
I would have to let the other staff address how they want
Okay.
to deal with that.
So, back to the staff then, if the driveway is not addressed, as part of the variance, just the 7.5-foot drainage and utility easement, does that still get us where we need to be for compliance?
I mean, currently, if we take that condition out, it's, yeah, we'd have to address if he then wanted to add it later, or, and then we either remove the gravel and go to the moved driveway, or we come in with a waiver.
Staff will make one more point too, just about the recommendation of conditions, because again, you know, the Board of Zoning Adjustment can add any stipulations to a zoning variance that they wish, you know, as long as it's in the interest of the public. And access management would be one of those things. But the eaves comment that was made as well, there are no eaves shown on this, so we can't verify that the eaves won't be in the easement with this approval tonight. So that was why that would be a condition of approvals, because they're not shown on the plot plan, just to make sure, since only the building footprint is shown. That is what the variance is on, so that would be the total placement compared to the zoning setback, and our eaves apply.
I
So
do
it's-
have the blueprint here, and the eaves are 18 inches, and I did tell Chris about that, too. Yeah, so the eaves are on the blueprints.
Correct, but they're not on the plot plan that shows the dimensions of what you're requesting the variance.
Okay.
So am I hearing staff say that when they come to get the permit, they will make sure that the overhang is not in the easement?
Correct.
And that the driveway going to that shed will be concrete?
That will be required by access management, yes.
Or asphalt.
Or asphalt,
The proposed
or another
driveway.
paved surface.
So, all right. Okay, I guess that's all. Any more questions? All right,
So-
thank you.
Okay, so you'll explain this in English to me later, or?
Well,
You can get with staff
we've
after.
got to have a public hearing,
Okay.
and then we'll talk about it and vote.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Okay. All right, we're going to have a public hearing on this. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address the commission regarding this specific variance request? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commissioners. Is there any more discussion, any more questions? Then I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion we approve the variance request.
Motion from Sedbury,
Second.
second from Petrillo.
Do we need to include with staff recommendations
I don't
To
think
that-
so.
to that approval?
I mean, it sounds like the access management plan is going to take care of one of the
Yeah,
questions. And he's asking for a specific setback, and if the eaves don't meet the setback, then he either has to come back or he has to change the building.
Yeah.
So I think just a straight a straight motion would handle it.
That, yeah, you could do it that way as well. Staff just wants to be very clear that the eaves are not on here, so as you stated, if it is in the easement, then they would need to return.
Now, wait a minute, say that again.
We're good to go.
If we approve the variance, then that lets them, the staff will take care of the concrete driveway and the easement.
So if you approve the two zoning variance requests tonight, they're requesting a variance on the front platted setback as well as the accessory structure setback, about by 6 feet into that 15-foot front setback, and even more so into the accessory structure setback. When they get to the building stage, we will need to make sure the eaves are shown, and so if they encroach any more than what's
Yes.
shown by the Board of Zoning Adjustment, they would have to return you.
Okay. Is the commission clear where we are on that? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Jewel,
Yes.
Sedbury,
No.
Wesson,
Yes.
Floyd,
No.
Portillo,
Yes.
Farner.
Yes. Well, that means we had 4, didn't we? Yes, so the variance is approved. And you can work with the staff on getting the rest of it taken care of. Okay. Next item is amending the rules and procedures for the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Ms. Robertson?
So if you remember, we recently did an ordinance change where we assigned floodplain variances. We changed the name to waivers and then assigned it from you guys, the Board of Zoning Adjustment, to the Planning Commission. And so I have updated the bylaws to represent that. So I have removed the floodplain consideration from your bylaws as one of your duties.
Do we need to vote on that?
Yes, you do need to vote. Only you guys can vote to approve any kind of changes or amendments to the rules.
Do any of the commissioners have questions of Ms. Robertson about this? Can I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion for amending the rules and procedures as presented by staff.
Second.
Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
Sudbury,
Yes.
Wesson,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Portillo,
Yes.
Dool,
Yes.
Farner.
Yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is open discussion. Does the staff have anything?
Not at this time.
Does anybody on the commission have any? Okay, then that's the end of our agenda, except to say that the Planning Commission's regular meeting will be held March 11th, immediately following this. The City Council work session is March 18th at 5:30. The City Council's regular meeting is March 25th at 6 o'clock. And the Planning Commission work session will be Thursday, March the 28th. With that, the Board of Zoning Adjustment is adjourned. Okay, I will now call to order the Planning Commission's regular meeting of March the 11th, 2024. Would you call the roll, please?
Ellis, Farner,
Here.
Wesson,
Here.
Sudbury,
Here.
Portillo,
Here.
Dool,
Here.
Floyd,
Here.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes from our last meeting.
I'll make the motion to approve minutes of our meeting, February 12th, 2024.
Motion from Klessen,
Second.
second from Yule. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the next item of business is public input. And at this time, if there's anybody in the audience that would like to address the commission for items not on the rest of the agenda, now's your chance to come up and talk to us. You have 5 minutes. Okay, not seeing any. We'll go to unfinished business. We have a request for a waiver, number 2024-52828. And it goes along with a lot split, number 2023-52438. Ms. Workman?
Thank you. This staff report is going to be located on page 22 of the published agenda packet. There have been no updates to this project since the work session meeting. The applicant here is proposing to create a 3.4 acre lot within the residential two-family district with a request to waive section 107-249F3 for the eastern property line depth that measures more than 4 times the width of the proposed lot. The lot and area regulations of the R2 district have been met. Easements have been dedicated to the public as required, and no vacations are proposed. Staff is recommending approval of the lot split, subject to an approval of the applicant's waiver request.
Any questions from the commissioners of staff? Is the applicant here, and does he want to add anything to it?
Good afternoon. My name's Gene Grosclose. I represent Cooper Communities. I would just like to add, as I mentioned in the work session last time we were together, that we did move the lot line. We adjusted the lot line to the south of the parcel and on the west side of the parcel, expanding the area to make it more buildable. And so that was the changes we made. We tabled it so we could get the waiver on the same agenda as this lot split. So I don't have anything other to add. If you have any further questions, I'll be happy to address
Any
those.
questions for the commissioners? All right,
Thank you.
see, first thing we need to do is take up the waiver, right? Okay. Does any of the commissioners have questions about the waiver? All right, then I would entertain a motion to deal with it.
I make a motion we approve the waiver.
Motion by Sedbury,
Second?
second by Lloyd. Would you call the roll, please?
Lloyd,
Yes.
Portillo,
Yes.
Dool,
Yes.
Sedbury,
Yes.
Plesson,
Yes.
Farner.
Yes. All right, the waiver is approved. Then we need to deal with the lot split. Are there any questions from the commissioners to the staff about the lot split? Okay, do I have a
There's no
motion?
remaining comments on the lot split.
I'm sorry?
Are there any remaining comments on the lot split?
All staff comments have been met.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the requested lot split.
Second.
Motion by Lloyd,
Second.
second by Sedbury. Call the roll, please.
Portillo,
Yes.
Dool,
Yes.
Sedbury,
Yes.
Plesson,
Yes.
Lloyd,
Yes.
Farner.
Yes. Okay, now we're moving into new business, and the first thing on the agenda for new business is the annual election of chairman, vice chairman, and secretary of this commission, of this group. I will entertain nominations for chairman.
I nominate Daniel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, and I will say, I talked to Daniel before he left on his trip, and he said he would be happy to do it. Are there any other nominations for president or chairman? Being none, do we need to call a roll on that if we can just do a voice? Call the roll, be safe. All right, call the roll, please.
Dool,
Yes.
Sedbury,
Yes.
Plesson,
Yes.
Lloyd,
Yes.
Portillo,
Yes.
Farner.
Yes. Okay, next is the election of vice chairman. Do I hear any nominations?
I nominate Doug Farner.
Nomination by Classen,
Second.
second Sedbury. Any other nominations? Call the roll on that, please.
Sedbury,
Yes.
Plesson,
Yes.
Lloyd,
Yes.
Farner,
Yes.
Portillo,
Yes.
Dool.
Yes.
Okay. Now we need to not have, accept nominations for the secretary. Do I hear any? Well, can the chairman make a nomination? Yes. I nominate Classen.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
Second you. Would you, is there any other nominations for secretary?
I'm sorry, who did the second?
Somebody over there.
I'm sorry.
Dool,
Yes.
Sedbury,
Yes.
Plesson,
Yes.
Lloyd,
Yes.
Portillo,
Yes.
Farner.
Yes. All right. Next item is amending the rules and procedures. Ms. Robertson.
Okay, so I removed I added floodplain to the planning commission bylaws. I also added a few missing chunks and pieces that we were missing, such as our rules and procedures for public input and public hearings. So you'll see C and D are completely new. C was added, referenced loosely off of the city council's public input session on their agenda, and then the public hearing procedures were pulled from a document that we already have, that we've been giving to applicants for planning commission public hearings since at least 2016. However, I could not find where we ever adopted those formally, so I've put that document in here for you all to formally adopt now. Item E is new as well. That was a tool for you all, proposed as a tool. Can you hear me over the cracking? Yeah, okay. Basically, I wanted to put all of the duties, powers, basically things that are expected of you in one place, so the state, local, and all of that. So you have just one tool that you can look at, which is this bylaw document as a whole, rather than relying on 3 different sources on what all the planning commission's expected to do. And it is summarized for you. Item G was missing. Our ordinance requires us to report to the city council, and so I added that as well. And then I did a clerical change from the records. For some reason, item 3 of records, or J, was randomly with the meetings. And so just cleaned that up, moved it from the meeting procedures and put it with the record requirements.
I hate to be a nitpicker, but I have one comment.
I love comments.
In item C, public input procedures, on the next to the last, or the last sentence actually, reads repetitive comments should, shall be avoided. I think one of those needs to go.
I propose to remove should.
I would think that, but
Okay.
I just saw that, so. All right, does any of the commissioners have any questions about these procedures? Nope. All right, do I have a motion to approve them?
I make a motion to approve amending rules and procedures with the one slight should as presented. Second.
Second from Lloyd. Call the roll, please.
Jewel,
Yes.
Sedgwick,
Yes.
Wesson,
Yes.
Lloyd,
Yes.
Portillo,
Yes.
Farner.
Yes. All right, the next item, item C, is a waiver request number 202453094. Ms. Workman.
This request is located at 6 Sellside Lane. The applicant is requesting a waiver of section 107380F for an existing driveway that exceeds 14%. Since the work session, the applicant has amended their request to 14.1 on the north side and 11.18% on the south side. And this percentage is measured from the edge of the garage to the edge of the road. Staff finds the applicant's request not to be congruent with existing site conditions, as there are areas of this driveway that exceed 20%, and that percentage exceeds the overall percentage that the applicant is requesting. Planning will defer to the city engineer for a recommendation on this request.
Do any of the commissioners have questions?
Not yet.
So what's shown on the applicant's last submittal is a grade from the edge of the road to the driveway. Well, there's a low spot in that drive in between there, so that's why there's such a disconnect between what we say is on the ground. So that grade's shown there, but no one can drive on that because that drive drops down before it goes back up into the garage. So the grades that are on the drive are upwards of 20.5%.
I'm sorry, 20 what?
20.5.
20.5, okay.
Any of the commissioners have further questions about that? I did have one question. We're talking about changing our driveway rules later on tonight. If what we're talking about is approved, would this variance and waiver even be required?
Yes, because it's, I mean, what we proposed was 17 down, and this is over 20 down. It's 20% up, but that isn't this case.
And would that be measured on center line?
Well, I don't know that we've ever,
Well, that's what.
yeah, I mean, the last thing we
In the
talked about,
future,
yeah,
yes, it will.
yeah.
That's where I was going with
Yeah.
it is, if the procedures for driveways or the rules
And
for
I didn't
driveways-
measure it at the center line, so
Yeah.
I don't know what it is exactly at the center line, because that was before we had that discussion, of course.
Is that driveway usable the way it is? Because the driveway's in, right? Is it usable the way it is?
I guess it depends on what you're driving. It depends on what you're driving. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't driven on it.
Okay. Do the commissioners have any further questions of staff? Linda,
No, I don't have a question.
you do?
I don't have a
Oh, you don't?
question.
Okay.
You have a statement.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here?
Hi, good afternoon. Scott Preston with Stony Brook Builders. I'm representing the guards at 6 Southside for this waiver request. Lots to discuss, I guess, and how they're measuring. The city engineer didn't present any evidence on how he measured to get 20.5%. We have sent out a survey crew recently, but since our last meeting with you guys, we had ran a laser level over it and done rise over run from the edge of the garage to the edge of the street. And with just a laser level, we were somewhere close to 14% on one side and under 12 on the other side. When we sent the engineering crew out from AccuStaking, Staking, they came up with the latest dimensions, which is 14.1% from whatever that is, the north side, and 11.18% on the south side, which is just 0.1 over the 2% variance that planning can, or the staff can make. The question really comes down to is how rise and run are calculated, what a bump means, the things that Chris doesn't like. So we went back, I had an engineer, we got a response back that says this information is worthless. Well, actually, that might not be the exact word, hold on. And it's just been a back and forth. That's your piece of paper. I wrote it down here somewhere, pardon me. Sorry, guys. And the homeowner is here as well. They use the 3-car garage every day. I can have Dylan come up and tell you that his car does go in it. We originally submitted a video to the city showing a vehicle going in and out of the driveway. It is accessible, it is usable, it is not the neighbors aren't complaining, there is no restriction off the street, there would be no issues with emergency vehicles getting down the street because the cars are parked in the driveway or the garage that is usable. But in everything that we're fighting for this variance or this waiver, sorry, is that the driveway is usable and that the only person that's really doubting us is the city engineer who's not presenting any form of how you measure the driveway. So we're in a real pickle. And at the last meeting, you know, I know they said they've had 900 houses and I'm the only one that's ever been the problem. Well, I built 120 of those houses. I know the rules, we try to follow them. I've been up here for a long time and ask for your approval of this waiver based on the fact that we don't really know how the rules work. We did do it over rise and run exactly as it's presented to the staff that approves it before it's built. Now, I will say, because they're probably gonna bring it up, my finished floor elevation is 7 inches off of what was on the plan. So when the guy went out there with the engineer, I am short, and I can't remember the other man's name, the engineer that you just voted for chairman. But he said, you know, that's the next phase, having an engineer go out at block, having an engineer go out halfway through it. The other thing is that this was missed on all the other inspections after block, and it was even missed on the C of O inspection. We did fail for a couple other things, a safety latch on the front door and something else. And when they went back to check those things out, he then added this driveway thing, and that's when it kind of turned into it. So it's been very, very, very confusing. I would ask you to approve the waiver based on the survey presented by AccuStaking, based on the knowledge that we have that rise over run equals percentage of slope. You guys have any questions for me?
Okay, any questions?
Do you have go ahead.
I have kind of an unrelated question. What size septic system does this house have?
4-bedroom.
Okay, this plat says it's a 5-bedroom house, which it isn't.
It's a 4-bedroom with office.
Okay.
Do you have a CFO?
We have a temp. And we do not have a C of O. That's what we need this waiver for, is to get a final C of O.
Yeah, I want to mention, I've been out to this property, I've looked at the driveway, it's eminently functional. And the driveways that I've seen that do not have some kind of a hump tend to have water rushing down the driveways. And I would rather see a driveway with something that slows the water flow and directs it properly than one without it.
And this one does.
It has one, which I think was probably a good idea.
Okay, any further comments or questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take it back to the staff, commissioners, any questions, comments?
Can I ask Chris a question? When we're talking rise over run from the street to the garage, that doesn't account for any fluctuations in the surface of the driveway, correct?
Oh, what the code says is the percent of grade on the driveway.
Right, but I'm talking about.
If you do rise over run
Yeah.
to the low point, that's where you're gonna get 20%.
Okay.
If you do rise or run from the garage to the edge of the road, I mean, that doesn't really mean a whole lot because you can't drive on that. But, I mean, that's, the way the code reads, it doesn't stipulate, it just says the maximum grade is 12% with a 2% administrative approval. So nothing over 14%, it doesn't, that's the only guidance in it.
Okay.
Did I hear you say that even if we vote for the improvement or the new rules or the new regulation, that
Yeah,
this
this
is not
still,
going to
this
make
still
any-
doesn't, it just still doesn't meet
It would
the-
not fit into
No.
that?
It would require a waiver.
It would still require a waiver.
Okay. Could we hear from the folks that actually live there?
Yes, if they're here, yes.
Good evening.
State
Just,
your name and address.
Oh, sorry. My name's Dylan Guard, and I live at 6 Southside Lane.
and you're not having any problem driving in and out of your garage?
None whatsoever.
What kind of car do you have?
I myself drive a Nissan Titan. My wife drives a Nissan Armada.
Okay. All right, anybody else have questions of the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, do I hear a motion on this?
I make a motion that we approve this waiver 2024-53094.
Motion from Lloyd,
Second.
second, Sewell. Would you call the roll, please?
Sudbury,
No.
Hudson,
Yes.
Lloyd,
Yes?
Portillo,
Yes.
Dool,
No.
and Farner.
Yes. So the waiver is approved. All right, the next item on the agenda is a waiver number 2024-53084. Ms. Workman?
All right, this is going to be a waiver request on the same section of code 107380F. This is located at 15 Carroll Ray Lane. The subject site is undeveloped. There has been no updates since the work session meeting. The applicant is proposing a concrete driveway that measures 17% to serve a future single-family residential development. There are outstanding comments that have not been addressed by the applicant. The driveway area depicted in the plot plan that you see above you has a driveway section that measures approximately 26%, which exceeds the applicant's request. Planning staff will defer to the city engineer again on this one for a recommendation.
So, my comments from technical plat reviews for them, I asked them to grade the drive. Because as you see from this plot plan, that first 15 feet of that drops off the road really, really steep. So the response back from the applicant was that they were gonna put it at existing grade. Well, you can't do that because that grade right at the beginning, the way they have it shown, is about 30%. You're gonna have to fill that front section, and then to get back to the 17, you're gonna have to get steeper than 17. So I just wanted them to request what they're gonna need. So, I mean, it's hard to, if you approve 17, they will not be able to meet it with this plan unless they do a lot of filling.
So if we approve the driveway thing that we're talking about, we're only talking about the first 20 feet.
No, I mean, well, yeah, and that's what,
Let me finish.
that's why, yes.
Okay, we're only talking
This-
about the first 20 feet, and it couldn't be over 17.
Yes,
Okay, so because of the steepness of the lot, that's gonna require fill in there, no matter what.
no matter what, which happens on a vast
Okay.
many of the,
That's my point, is no matter whether we approve what's here or what we're gonna approve, it's still gonna have to have fill to get a driveway off the road.
my issue with this is if you approve 17, I don't think they're gonna be able to submit a plan that meets that.
Are you
Because of the way the land lays, I
Are you
don't,
telling me that lot's unusable?
no, I'm telling you, it's unusable if you tell them that that drive has to be 17%. It needs to be steeper. They need to be requesting steeper, they need to grade out the drive to see what they're actually gonna need. And that's what I've been asking them to do. So that's my comment. Is it, to make this work, it needs to be steeper in areas past the right-of-way. Whether you enact changes to the drive, to the ordinance or not, it needs to be steeper than 17%. The existing grade of the lot is about 17%, but you have to get off the road first. And you're gonna be filling quite a bit to get off the road and not be 30%.
Well, what I hear you saying is that lot's not buildable without a waiver.
Yes, it is. No, I mean, they can put the house up close to the road, and they can meet, but I mean, who wants to do that? But,
That's a lake.
I mean, it's, well, I mean,
Okay,
there are lots in this town that will be unbuildable without some kind of waiver of your driveway ordinance. That's just the way the land lays. The issue is not only the steepness of the drive, it's the fact that, see how this lot narrows as it comes up to the road? You cannot grade within 5 feet of the property line. They're not gonna be able to meet that with that driveway, so they'll need a request for that also, but I can approve that. But, I mean, there's a lot of issues with these pie-shaped lots where the road sits several feet above the rest of the lot.
any more questions of the engineer? Okay, is the applicant here by chance? Would you like to address? Okay. I would personally say, I went out and looked at that lot, and that's a long, I'm sorry? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. You're not the applicant, are you? Okay, I want to finish what I was saying. I went out and looked at that, and that's a long, steep lot, and it's a lake lot, if my memory is correct. And they're gonna put the house down by the lake, that only is reasonable. So you're gonna have to have a long, steep driveway, and the only way is to get to the 20 feet that we're talking about changing it to, is gonna require a lot of fill. So I'm thinking personally that, that they're gonna have to have the waiver. No matter what happens, they're gonna have to have a waiver, one way or the other. So I don't know how many other people went out to look at that lot, but, okay, all right. So do we have any more comments?
Well, the staff says that they've not received any revised plans or any answers, so I'm questioning why we're talking about this.
That's correct. We have not received a note about whether or not they'll be able to handle the area between the edge of the street and that front property line that's about 30% there. But I do want to provide a clarification. I think the concern of the waiver request itself is, it's not that the lot is not buildable. I believe the concern is if the applicant were to request 17% and receive a waiver of 17% along, the property, that there will be areas in which the applicant will exceed 17% that the waiver wouldn't cover. I think that's the concern.
Correct. What Chris was trying to explain earlier is that his main concern is that he is calculating something much higher than 17%. So if you approve 17% tonight, it may not help the applicant without a true grading plan. That is what he is concerned about, I believe, and I don't want to speak for him. Correct.
I mean, my concern too is we get into these situations where we either grant or don't grant a waiver, and, you know, now they have, how long is this driveway?
400 feet.
400 feet of concrete poured in there that we now have to remedy through a waiver again? I'd rather know ahead of time, or make sure the applicant knows that 17% is 17%. Like, that's, like, you know, kind of, and it's not particularly this case, but in these in general, you know, I'm kind of tired of being put on the spot about granting these waivers for driveways.
Yeah, the driveway measures about 270 feet from the edge of the road to the front of the garage. But there's a retaining wall that flattens out the grade, right? In that little spot there that indicates a fill area, a retaining wall starts there. So that's about 207 feet from the edge of the street.
So you're telling us that you don't have a final request for that driveway, how it's going to be?
We have a request that is 17%. We expressed our concern that there are areas shown on this plot plan that exceed 17%. So the recommendation to the applicant was to increase their request from 17 to whatever they need to cover the areas with a grading plan.
But you don't have the exact request that is going to be 16 or 18.9 or 37.6. You don't have that.
Their exact request was 17%. During tech review, we identified that that might not meet what they need, and they have not amended their request.
Okay.
Okay, I
And
understand now.
the surveyor has indicated that it is 17%. And I think if the applicant's not willing to take questions from us, I think that puts us in a bind.
Okay. Any further comments or questions of the commission?
Make a motion to approve the request.
Motion from Sedbury, second.
Second.
Second from Dool. Call the roll, please.
Weston,
No.
Floyd,
No?
Portillo,
No.
Dool,
No.
Sedbury.
No.
Farner,
No. Okay. The next item is another waiver, number 2024-53051. Planner Hyatt.
Thank you. This property is located in the southeast area of Bella Vista city limits and is located on parcel 16-14465. The applicant is requesting to waive 107-317D in order to have 2 access drives on one lot with less than 151 feet of street frontage. Per 107-317D, only one access drive is allowed for 150 feet or less. Their secondary garage has existed with this home since 2006, and due to the existing setback from the property line, accessing the secondary garage from the existing access drive is not feasible. Shelley Lane is a dead-end cul-de-sac and residential street that experiences low to minimal traffic. As requested during the working session, the applicant has filled out the notice of structural encroachment and filed it with the county. The notarized copy is attached in this packet. Staff will note that should the Planning Commission approve this waiver, the applicant will still be able to achieve a 3rd access drive on the northern adjacent lot per the current ordinance, due to these lots still being separate and not combined. If the intent of this waiver is to achieve the same amount of access drives that may be allowed if the lots were legally combined with the 170 feet of frontage, then a condition of approval may be considered.
Any questions of staff? Is the applicant here? Wants to add anything to that? Okay, let's back to the commission.
I have a question for staff. So the additional garage was approved and given a waiver at the time, but it was approved?
Pre-city.
Yeah, it's pre-city.
Oh, okay. So there's nothing in the information of why we attached a garage but didn't get any, didn't have a conversation about putting a driveway to that garage? Cool, thanks.
I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a comment before my motion. I'm concerned that the applicant didn't bother to show up for the work session or the meeting, but I do recommend approval because if the lots were combined, they would have enough frontage and they wouldn't need to come see us.
Right. And it was done pre-city anyway,
Right.
so, all right, is there a motion?
Yeah, I made a motion to approve this.
Motion from Lloyd, a second.
Second.
Portillo, call the roll, please.
Lloyd,
Yes.
Portillo,
Yes.
Dool,
Yes.
Sudbury,
Yes.
Plesson,
Yes.
Farner.
Yes. All right, the next item on the agenda is a lot split number 202452805. Planner Hyatt?
The subject parcels are situated west of Bella Vista, in the Bella Vista planning area of Benton County, between Edinburgh Road, a subcollector, and Highlands Boulevard, also a subcollector, as classified per our master street plan. The proposed incidental subdivision of parcels 18-12449 and 18-12491, two parent parcels to establish Track 1, Track 2, Track 3, and Track 4. The adjacent land use includes A1 agriculture, P1 conservation, and R1 single family. Easements have been dedicated to the public on the front, sides, and rear as required per Benton County. And additionally, right-of-way requirements have been met. Due to the layouts of tracks 2 and 3, the applicant will need to request a waiver of section 107-249F3, as both their lengths measure more than 4 times their widths. We haven't received any public comment at this time, and due to a pending waiver request for tracks 2 and 3, the applicant has since submitted those, but they will likely request a table to be able to hear both the waiver and lot split together in the same meeting.
Any questions of staff? Is the applicant here at this time?
My name's Gene Grosclose. I represent Cooper Communities. What we've done is we've taken 2 parent parcels out adjacent to or in close proximity to the Interstate 49 right-of-way. We're trying to reduce the size of these to make them more manageable for development or possible marketing. And we have submitted a waiver letter. I think it was submitted on or after February 19. So that's in what we're asking for. This is exactly what we did before, is asking that you table this request today, set it for next meeting, so the waiver letter will catch up with their lot split request. So that's our request today.
Okay, any questions of applicant? Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, we need a motion to table that, don't we?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we table this to the next meeting.
Motion Lloyd.
Second.
Second Portillo, call the roll, please.
Portillo,
Yes.
Dool,
Yes.
Sudbury,
Yes.
Plesson,
Yes.
Lloyd,
Yes.
Farner.
Yes. All right. The next item is will be a public hearing on the driveway grade ordinance. Let's see, who's handing that? Robertson.
Okay, I have kind of redone my staff memo based off the work session that we had on the 29th, and to update you all on the total outcome of what the resident survey was that we did. We did have 3 non-residents participate in that, but the majority, 191 of those 194 participants were residents. 34 of those believed that it should be 12%, 29 believed it should be 15%, 3 of them believed it should be 17, 9 believed it should be 20, 49 were unsure because we're not all civil engineers here in Bella Vista, and then 27 other responses were collected, such as less than 10%, greater than or equal to 30%, 22%, 30 to 35, 5, 9.5, 10, 6, etc. All of those were provided in the packet for you to see, all 27 of them. However, overall, it appears the majority was in favor of at least 15% or less, with a total of 69 participants selecting 12, 15, or less than that. I have prepared an ordinance for your consideration tonight based off the public hearing that we have notified the public of. We are talking about reducing the driveway grade constraint per the current code by increasing or allowing more steeper driveways. So it is still in line and intent with the public hearing noticing that we published. You'll see that I have taken almost word for word of what was said at the work session towards the end and compiled that into an ordinance amendment for item F of 109-380. Increased it, I removed the word overall because via the calculation discussion we had, it was determined that at no point of the driveway along the center line shall be over 14%. So clarified that in subsection 1. 2, that is the administrative modification that our city engineer will have. He will be able to consider up to 17% for downhill, as we discussed, just the same as the last meeting. And then for uphill, he will be able to consider up to 20% for, of course, uphill/elevated driveways. Anything further than those 2 items mentioned in that subsection, so if it was a downhill, 17.1% would need to come to you guys through a waiver. And if it was uphill, 20.1% and greater would have to go through a waiver to you all as the Planning Commission. And as requested, we have codified how it is going to be calculated and enforced. So item subsection 4. For the intended purpose of the subsection, driveway grade requirements shall only be enforced and measured along the center line of the driveway for the first 20 feet from the edge of street. At no point along the center line shall exceed the limitations provided herein. And so this was calculated or formulated from the discussion we had on the 29th. You all have a great amount of public comments within this packet. We had a great amount of public participation from our residents here as well as a few outsiders. And I know there are some here as well to speak at the public hearing that also provided some great insight as well. And I did provide you some background information. I hope you were able to take a gander through in my summary. So that way we have the intent of the ordinance, why we wrote this ordinance in the first place in 2022. As you all remember, a lot of the conversation back then was dealing specifically with garages. Back then we were kind of talking about being workable or usable as getting a car into the garage. So that was the intent. We were having situations where cars were scraping, getting into and out of the driveway and the garage. And so this discussion came up because there was no requirements or that were enforceable within our current ordinance. And if you remember, we did collect the driveway grades from the region. We looked at Rogers, who had 8%, Springdale 12% at the time, and then Fayetteville, which was 14%, but in some circumstances, I believed at the time they could allow up to 28%, just going off of the discussion that we had, the recordings of our work sessions. 15% was initially discussed as the maximum when we were looking at this the first time, but after further deliberation, 12% with a 2% administrative variance was agreed upon. And it was noted that the desire, anything greater than 14% would be required to come to you all through a waiver. I did give you some stats in there. Since the enforcement of this new ordinance, or 107-380F, that is currently written, at the time of this report, we've had more since Friday because this is our most popular application in Bella Vista, but we had 979 applications approximately, and only one of those projects, which was on the agenda tonight, has sought a waiver of that requirement prior to permitting and construction. So I wanted you all to have all the background, the history, and the data for this public hearing tonight. And with that, I would defer to our city engineer, Chris, for his side as well.
So since the work session, I have also heard the tape of the original discussions, and there was a whole lot of discussions about cars not being able to get in the driveway. So I would really hope you consider maybe applying this code to the first 20 feet and then the last 20 foot before you get in the garage, so that you can tackle both questions. You can still get a car into the garage and you can get them off the street. So if you did do that, then the waiver you just denied, they could do 17 for the first 20 feet, and then they could do 22 in between, and then they already have a flat spot at the bottom. So I mean, that would meet the requirement if it were changed to this. So that's just my recommendation, is that you add the last 20 foot before it goes into the garage, to make sure that you can get a vehicle into the garage.
Of course, there are a lot of houses that don't have 40 feet to the garage, do they?
Well, probably 85 to 90% of the ones I see are less than 40 feet.
So how do we handle that? Do we do the first 20 feet?
Well, you increase it to 14 with the administrative up to 17. I mean, that's how.
On the
you-
first 20, but we don't
Well,
have
but I
a
mean,
second
that's,
20.
it'd be the entire driveway if it's less than 40 feet. I mean, that's an increase to what you have already. If you feel that what you have already is not enough, that would be the answer.
Well, that makes sense to me. If it's less than 40 feet, then it's the maximum of 17% period, that's it.
Yeah, if it's down, or 20 if it's up.
Okay. The staff, I mean, the commission have any comments about that? What do you,
Well, absent not regulating it at all, I think just regulating the first 20 feet is fine, and let the real estate market take care of whether they can or cannot get their specific vehicle into the garage.
okay.
Let's stay off of that, because that has to do with, do you have a Jeep? Do you have a Corvette? Do you have a this? Do you have a that? And I want it to be as simple and easy to achieve as we can make it.
Good comment.
Good comment, yeah.
Anybody else?
So as written, then, Linda,
As written.
is what you're saying?
That-
Yes, I
yeah,
think it's great.
Yeah,
Thank you, staff.
okay, thank you. We have to have a public hearing on this. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address the commission on these? Please state your name. You've got 5 minutes.
Oliver Kiesel, 13960 Hiwassee Road, Hiwassee, Arkansas is my address. My family and I have been building here since 1977. And I went back and looked at, we built over 2,000 houses in Bella Vista. And I went back and looked at driveway grades. Over half the houses we built couldn't be built today without a waiver. You know, we live in a mountain and hilly terrain. So I don't think it makes sense to do a blanket percentage for a driveway when each lot is gonna be different. I think you guys are better off by, you know, the first 20 feet, or going into the garage, make sure you can actually get your car into the garage. But the doing like a blanket percentage isn't gonna work for each individual lot, in my opinion. And it's just creating a headache. I've got 5 customs coming up that I can't get a permit for because the slope never should have been adopted at 12%. That's crazy in the terrain that we live in. We should never have a 12% grade set right now. That was a mistake. So, you know, I think moving forward to fix it, you know, in my opinion, the less restrictions you guys put on is gonna be better. Just my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Marcy Platts. I've actually been asked to come and speak to you today in regards to an email that I recently sent to the city. As I said, my name is Marcy Platts. My husband and I own a local surveying company who specializes in surveying lots in Bella Vista. Our history with this city goes deep, as David's father was one of the main engineers that helped develop these subdivisions for Cooper Communities. Bella Vista is a very different city compared to all others that make up Northwest Arkansas. Thousands of lots were platted on roughly 300 subdivisions in a span of less than 10 years. The roads were roughed in on top of the ridges or on the bottoms of valleys, and subgrade, some hard surface was added. Streets were primitive, with very little thought to transitioning off the street onto the individual lots. This had the effect of leaving huge elevation changes from the edge of street to the building setbacks. At the time of platting, septic field requirements were much less than today, and home sizes were about half the size of the modern average home being built in the village. Some lots platted were nothing more than membership lots, or at best, cabin-sized lots. However, in 2024, all lots are in demand, and dare I say that some of the best lots have already been built on. All of these issues make the village very different from any of the surrounding cities. As you're aware, on June 27, 2022, the city of Bella Vista decided to implement a change in code to enforce a much-needed regulation on driveway construction. Unfortunately, I do not feel like a lot of thought was put into the details and specifications of the approved code. First and foremost, Bella Vista is not your common city, and therefore percentages and other requirements need to be adapted for this area. Thankfully, I believe some of these concerns are being addressed today at this meeting. But I'm speaking to you today to address another issue that has recently been the cause of many denied permits. What decides the percentage of slope being used on these proposed concept driveways? It is a general rule of thumb that in order to calculate the slope of your driveway, you would use rise over run, a simple mathematical equation. As surveyors, we are the first ones on the site, and therefore the information we provide you is raw information as it exists on the day of our visit. Our drawing presented to you includes multiple proposed items, as things will obviously change once the builders begin construction. The proposed items shown on our drawings are just a proof of concept. We do not know the variables as they have not occurred and therefore cannot be accurately depicted. Examples of these variables include how much flat space or reverse slope that'll be used for the approach into the garage or off of the street. This is not a standard number or practice, and therefore I would be unable to determine this pre-construction. Another example would be if the city pours the appropriate height of asphalt or extends the asphalt to where the driveway should connect to the street. I'll add this in, this wasn't on my email, but on a lot of the streets that we go down and survey, they're raw. They're just old gravel drives and they have to be improved. So we will show a proposed asphalt edge of what we assume where the street should have to go. Again, this will not have been constructed and therefore I would be unable to determine the exact elevation of the street edge. I feel by determining the overall driveway slope with rise over run, calculation from existing or pre-construction street edge to the proposed garage edge and verifying, and at this time when I wrote the email it was 14%, that we are upholding the spirit of the basic code as it exists. 99% of these sites are not being built exactly as our drawings say they should be built. But I would guess 90% are being built in the spirit of the approved plans. The other 10% that are the ones that are hopefully being caught with egregious errors during inspections. Inspections are key. Honestly, on some of the lots, we've been asked to go back out and create an as-built drawing. If there was an issue, we found the error to be where the builder has not gone up another layer of block as needed to hit the recommended FFE. Or if they didn't hit the 3-to-1 slope code, sometimes we found they didn't install the proposed retaining wall that we showed on our drawings. The people I sent the email to, as you know, we survey 600 to 700 lots per year. And it is a lot of work for us, the builders, the city, if these drawings have to be reworked, resubmitted, and re-reviewed. Therefore, my goal is to make sure that we're all on the same page going forward. To clarify, I am asking how the city would like for driveway slopes to be calculated, considering all construction variables.
Thank you. All right.
I'm William Powell, live at 133 Kinross Drive, Bella Vista. Homeowner, also own a lot on Stonehaven. I would agree with Ms. Lloyd over here about having a flat area at the top, and however I need to get down after the flat area, I'd have a flat area in front of my garage to get in. What's in between shouldn't matter, as long as I can get up and down with it with a vehicle. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Hi again, Scott Preston, Stony Brook Builders. I don't really know how to input on what you guys have to consider. It's almost impossible. But Marcy had a good point on rise over run. Now, my other thing is that I don't like the way that the old code is very, very vague, and the new code is pretty vague as well. Basically, it should say with a 4-foot level anywhere on the driveway, and it should be more specific. Another, just a real quick thing, I'm debating whether to stay in Bella Vista, and it doesn't matter. There's 90 people applying every day. There's people moving up here. You're the only place left on earth that has available lots. So builders are wanting to be here, and it's great for the community, and people are wanting to move here. You're in a great location, close to Walmart and all that stuff. And I do think that the market should make up the decision on this. But you, at the work session you had a great thing about getting cars off the street for an emergency. So I still think this rule is written poorly, and I don't know how to fix it, and I'm not here to offer that advice. I don't have that. But I have a lot that I am ready to pay the fees for and get going and start a clearing. It's been approved for a 20-foot setback, which would be the whole driveway would be included. It has 5 feet right off of the street. So when you're standing on the street, there's a 5-foot curb, literally the ditch in front of you. Okay, and then I'm gonna be behind that. To get over that little hump is gonna put me at 30%. But if I cut and go all the way to the garage, all distance, I'll be at 14.1. The problem is, I'm not gonna meet this new requirement because you're gonna have to go up a little bit to level out. And when we were using what the surveyors were using and the system to do it all on paper was rise over run, which was street to garage. When you add in any place on the entire driveway cannot be over the slope, you're still gonna be following this waiver procedure. So I don't really have an answer for you. One thing I would consider is a parking area on the side of the road. And I don't know what the rules are on that to have, if we get another ice storm that you're trying to prevent, what says everybody will pull in their 17% or less driveway? Or will they still park on the street? They will still cause problems for the emergency. You're trying to solve a once in 10-year ice storm problem, and I totally get it, and you got a big problem in front of you and how to solve it. But I think this rule, as it's written, has to go back to planning, and there has to be more definition on making it work for the city, not just for the builders, not just for the residents, but for everybody. It's got to be a win-win, and right now it's kind of nobody really knows if they're winning or losing, because there's no way to keep score. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brad Walker. I work with Marcy at AccuStaking. I'm the one that basically does all of the designs for the subdivisions or the houses that you guys see. So my question and my problem that I've had is with the 14% or whatever the determined percentage is, I was a city inspector for over 2 years. And one of the big tricks that I could play on people is when you have a parking lot, your 5-foot by 20-foot, 5-foot unloading area for your van, it can have a max grade of 2% in any one direction. So it can fall 2% along the face of the curb, and it can fall 2% from the curb to the end of the line. And if you put a 4-foot level on any one of those two lines, it'll show up at exactly 2%. And the moment you take the end of that level and you run it to the other corner, it shows up at 2.24%. So the problem is we need to be able to measure in exactly the way where I draw it on my plans that it's gonna be measured in the field. So if I'm shooting it directly down the center line, I'm not focused on the cross slope that the road itself is giving me. So if I have a 14% going in one direction, you might be able to move that level at different angles until I am no longer at 14%, even though if you set it at both of the edges and run it along the edge, I might be at 14%. So there's tricks and ways with the numbers where we can end up looking like we're causing problems when in actuality we're still trying, at least in all honesty, to stay within the code of what that is. So to have a defined area of what the 14 or the 17 or the 20, where that's going to be and how it's going to be defined, I think is very important, so that there's not the trick of Somebody goes out there and sets it down trying to be honest, but slightly askew and goes, that's 14.1%, which maybe a solution might be having a more stringent design standard and a less stringent construction standard, where we designed it to be at 14%, but if it's constructed at 14.5% because of any changes that we make. Like Marcy said, I don't know what the grade of the 18-inch asphaltic approach is going to be at the end of, once they lay it. I don't know if they're gonna come out 2 feet or 5 feet from the driveway to give a low spot. You know, all of these things vary, and it would require meetings with every single client and knowing what they're planning on that lot for me to give an accurate representation of what it's really going to be. Where if we're, I hope maybe that if we're staying within that 14% from edge of road to garage, there is a variable acceptance in that would be acceptable, and just a thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll bring it back to the commissioners. Do we have any questions, any comments? I think we've heard some good comments from the public tonight. It would seem like if,
Oh, no, I was just kidding.
if the commission is okay with what has been drawn, then we need to have a motion to send it on to the city council. Or, as an option, if we have heard things today that we want to go back and look at it again, see if there's any further changes we want to make before we send this to the council. What's the commission think?
I want to come back to paragraph 4, the calculating the driveway grade. So it's being measured along the center line, but unless I'm missing something, we're not saying what tool of measurement we're using.
Correct,
Somewhere
because this applies, how it's written, this would apply to us who are on the front end, which is not with a smart level. We review it on the paper via proposed contours and FFEs. And then this would also apply to out in the field with the smart level. Basically, I can put it word for word, the whole thing, how planning is going to review it, how we will review it word for word. However, typically may be complicated from staff's perspective, but I can do that. But as of right now, this applies to both us on the front end who review it on paper with rise over run and slope and FFE, and as well as those who are in the back end checking it when it's already done with the smart scale for percentage calculations. But I can amend this and define how both of us, both different sections of the city development team, will review and enforce it if that's what you guys want me to do. Or if that's what you guys vote to do as a commission.
Would that be helpful to our builders who are saying they're finding it confusing?
I can't speak for them. I would defer to them, but I guess
If you say how you're gonna measure it, aren't you presupposing they would have already constructed it? And aren't you trying to make sure that it's compliant before it's built? I mean, you're inviting people to say it shall meet a certain grade after it's built, but that's gonna necessarily mean there are gonna be driveways ripped out if they don't. But if you're measuring it by some way which is not necessarily based on that, see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? You're not gonna make people run the risk of building it wrong and then, oh, we measured it, rip it out. It's just a thought that I had. And then there's one other thing that I need clarification on from the staff. The very last sentence of the red section, at no point along the center line shall exceed the limitations provided herein. Shouldn't that, there's a missing word there, I think. At no point along the center line shall grade exceed the limitations provided therein? Or am I not reading it correctly?
At no point along the center line of the driveway?
Well, it needs something. I don't know what, I just want to say that as it reads currently, there seems to be something missing out of that.
Say at no point shall the center line exceed the limitations provided herein.
We've got several meanings here. I don't know what was meant, so I just want to bring it up so we can clarify.
Jason, what was the first thing you were saying there?
Well, it just crossed my mind listening to the conversation. If we want to put in the ordinance how we measure it, and we say we measure it by use of Daniel said, a level of certain length and along the center line and all that, it has to be constructed first.
No,
And so that seems to me an awful risky proposition to put that in there. You build it and then we'll measure it, and if it doesn't meet up, then you're ripping it out.
all right, Ms. Robertson, what were you saying about the intent, the way it's written?
I was just saying the intent as written right now, just from like a public policy standpoint, it covers both. It's just saying at no point along the center line, just period. So that means on the front end, at no point along the center line shall it be 14%, or, if it has an administrative modification, 17 or 20, whatever it be.
But based on what? The plans they bring, or?
We currently review on the front end a grading plan, and we review the proposed contours and the proposed FFE, and then of course spot elevations.
Okay, that's where I was going.
Yeah, the scale or the smart scale that does not come into play until way down the road when the house is already constructed. But even before the permit's issued, planning and engineering, mainly engineering now, reviews them on the front end preferably before ground's disturbed. We won't permit it unless we can make sure that it meets the current code.
Okay.
And of course, you can't, measure paper with a smart scale, so.
Any more questions, comments?
Yeah, and I want to clarify the waiver. So we want it at 14%. City engineer, with just his own discretion, can go up 3% to 17% on the downhill, up 6% up to 20%. Is there a process where if it exceeds 20 or 17, that there is a waiver process for that?
Correct. It's already exists in our code. 107-35 provides those 4 requirements.
Okay. Sorry, I made you come up here, Brenda.
Can I ask my question again on the very last sentence and what that needs to say?
I think you get great. I think it'll.
So, at no point along the center line shall grade exceed the limitations provided. Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense.
There's a word missing.
At no point along the center line of the driveway grade shall exceed the limitations.
All right, now we're adding more than one word. So-
Shall grade exceed, Taylor.
Wait a minute.
Shall grade exceed.
Shall grade exceed. Shall the grade exceed?
That's better.
There you go.
Yeah.
Run it through grammar.
Where does it go?
Between shall and exceed.
Grade exceed. There's a word missing in here.
Shall the grade exceed.
Okay. Well, are the commissioners okay with this, the way it's written with that one change, or do we want to discuss it further next time?
I think we need to do something about this sooner rather than later. And I would make a motion with the inclusion of the word "the grade" that we send this on to council with a positive recommendation.
Have a motion,
And I
Lloyd?
second.
Second, Petrillo. Would you call the roll, please?
Portillo,
Yes.
Dool,
Yes.
Sudbury,
Yes.
Wesson,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes?
Farner.
Yes. Okay. That concludes all the new business. The next thing is any committee reports, and I don't think we've got any yet. We have an open discussion thing here, Ms. Robertson.
It's just a friendly reminder that your comments on the diagnostic report for our zoning and development code reform are due March 14th, this Thursday by end of day. And you can email those to me, or you can provide them on our project website, however you want to do it. Happy to help you get that in there.
Okay, with that, announcements. City Council work session is Monday, March 18th at 5:30. The City Council regular meeting is Monday, March 25th at 6 o'clock. The next Planning Commission work session is Thursday, March 28th at 4:30 here. And the next Board of Zoning Adjustments will meet Monday, April 8th at 4:30, directly followed by the Planning Commission meeting, and that will be here. If there's nothing else, we are adjourned.
I just wanted to mention in the draft report, one of the things they recommend is doing away with the 4 times the length, the width. They want that ordinance to go away.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, with that, we're adjourned.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.